in the garage again. Waited till the weekend to try installing my new rear bumper lights. Car's pretty filthy. It's still pretty crunchy out here. Got to get the fire going in the stove. Car's a mess. I was going to wash it a week ago, but then we got another storm coming in. It wasn't worth the bother because it wasn't going to last a day. So we'll see what kind of a sloppy mess it is in the back end of this thing. Turn the car around so I can close the door and get the heat on. Still not sure how I want to wire these things. They give you enough tail that it looks like it could reach straight up to the tail light, but I'm not sure I want to do that. I don't want to look in there. I'm worried about the weather. They did put some little pins on the end of the wires. They're really tiny wires. I can't see a real use for those pins. So let's pop this little cover off, see what we got to do to get the tail light off. Imagine that just comes right off. A couple of screws. I think this just slides right out so you can change the tail lights. But I'm interested to see how much dirt and crap is in here by these tail light connectors. And those wires, there's really not a lot of length on them. So if you splice into that and that goes bad and you gotta mess with it, you don't have a lot to work with. Come on, pop out. There we go. It just pops out. But yeah, that's all you got to work with right here. Let me get you closer to that. So here's the lights. Looks like it's just a couple of poppers. One popper here, a slot in the front, those two screw holes in the back. That's about it. There's just the one wire there. That's all the length you got to work with. There's not a lot. This looks different than the other videos I've been seeing of the CX50 or the CX5. CX5 had a couple of separate light bulb thingies here. These are all integrated, I'm guessing because those are LEDs. It looks like there's some sort of... No, that's all just a grommet there. So let me poke at that for a minute and see how that comes out. I'm thinking I'd be a lot happier if I could get the wires inside somewhere. Before I go tearing the inside apart to get to the back side of those lights, my other thought was, if I put the lights in here and I run the tail over to the middle and pop it up through the hole where the hitch wiring goes, that'll get me to the inside, and then I can run wires left and right where I need to inside, and then everything should be protected from the weather. The light itself seems like it's pretty well sealed up. So let me poke around underneath, see if I can pop the bottom poppers off of that, pull that cover out. I suspect I'm still going to have to take the bumper off because I think those lights are butted up against the back of that beam. So I'm not going to be able to reach up in there and do that without pulling that off. So let me crawl underneath. This is why I waited till Saturday to do this, because I knew I was going to be going down this rabbit hole. There's a couple of poppers along the bottom edge of the bumper plastic, but they didn't get me anywhere. There's a couple more in the corner underneath. They still don't do nothing. All of this is rattly in here. There's a couple more poppers on this side. There's a weird little screwy thing over here. I'm going to have to spin that loose. And then it looks like there's a couple more in here, so let me pop them off and see if I can get something to come loose in here, because this is all still really attached. Alright, I still got nothing. I got this piece all loose underneath here, and that corner looks like it's loose, but I guess the next piece is we gotta try and rip this off, see what's in here. under here a little bit. Oh, there we go. There. And there. Come on. Where can I hang? One there. One in the middle. That's not so bad. Hang on. Well, we got that pop loose. Looks like there's 5 poppers that are right here in the bottom corner of that. Some of them are, it's like 4 are down to the bottom and 1 is at the top. Oop. And there's 1 extra down here that I'll have to reset. And there is, looks like 1 piece that holds the cladding, and then there's 1 screw here. So let me pull him off. Oop, and there's a copper there. Where does the copper go? Oh, there we go. So that frees the fender liner from that, and looks like that's just gonna pop right off, because that is up here. So the side's coming off. Alright, let me go to the back. There's 2 more little screws in the back here that are hidden under these covers. Pop them off. Take them off here. And so far it's a lot of little fasteners, but nothing that's any difficult. You just gotta get them all out of here. Alright, now let me, I don't want to drop this light, so let me give this a pull here. Let's see what happens. Looks like it's all loose. So now we've got to do the same thing on the other side. Yep, it's all loose. Alright, let me undo the other side and then we'll see if we can drop it off. Looks like it's all loose here. Try to do this without dropping everything. Three. We're still stuck in the middle somewhere. What are we stuck on? Seems like clip in the middle. Let me figure that out. All I had to do was tug on that a little bit harder, and that clip in the middle popped loose. So now we gotta see what's in here. I don't know what that is. We probably got a connector here for the wiring back here. Get up there. Stay up there. This is all loose. Looks like parking sensors, vents, wires. Realistically, that's all I need to get to the back of those reflectors. So I don't have to throw this on the floor. If I can get to those from there. Let me take another look at that and see what we gotta do here. So looking down in the back of this, it looks like there's one of the sensors mounted on the side. There's the big flat one down here at the bottom that may be the collision sensor. Plus we got the other strings along the bottom here that are the rear proximity sensors for parking. I think all I need is just this one screw right here. That reflector will come out. Because they're kind of screwed on one side and tabbed on the other side. So we take this one screw, and there's a little squeezy tab right here. Bingo. That's it. That's all there is. It just pops right out. Odd that there's a little vent thing on here. I don't know if that's just air vent or if that's meant for someday we're gonna electrify those just like we're doing now. So, cool. Let's see what happens if I pop the new one in there. Now, as filthy as this thing is, I'm not gonna feel bad at all about putting all my wiring connections inside rather than outside, because yeah, there's a lot of crapola going on in here. Just a tabby, and I think looking at this snappy connector that there's room right here in this corner for that wire to go in through the hole. I think I'm just going to route it right up through there. So I don't really need to drill any extra holes in the plastic. I think it'll just go right in here nicely. So put the tab on that side. Put this in here. In. Or not. Is it in? Or do I need to clean that out first? Something stuck here. There is. Ew, I see, says the blind man. There's a little bit of a pokey right here that does absolutely nothing. And this is flat on the back, so that won't quite snap in there. Let me see if I gotta cut him off. I don't think there's anything on the back side, but that does. I could be mistaken. There's a little bracket on the back of that. So that'll go out of the way. see what's on the back here. Okay, the back of that bracket is just holding this wire. But I think what I can do is just leave that poked out, and then I can make a tie here around this screw, and I think that'll be just fine. I don't think it'll bother anything. Let me do that. Because of the way this wire lays in here next to that stand up, I'm going to take one little bite out of this, just right here. Just to give me a little bit of clearance so that wire can lay in there. Don't think that'll bother anybody. Find a little bit of a file or something right here. I think that can go right there. Let's see what that does. Alright. That seems secure in there now. I don't like that it rattles, so I think I'm going to get a little piece of foamy tape to stick on the back just to take up some slack so that it doesn't move around. Alright, cool. Alright, details. I got to thinking about it. There's this screw that's supposed to hold that assembly tight in the slot. Because this original one is hollow, the screw can go way down deep in the slot here and it won't bother nothing. But we can't do that here because if we run that screw in, it's going to run right through the PC board in the back of that light. We can't do that. So I started the threads in this hole, and I'm going to go look and see if I can find another screw that's shorter so that we can leave this one for here in case we want to go back, but I need a shorter one for this. Scrounged around, found a couple of number 12 screws, cut them off short. I think they're going to work just fine to hold that in place. Okay, all set. Got a hole going through here, got a short screw, and I got one little tie wrap. I made a hole through the back corner of the slot just to hold that in place of that bracket. So, right side's ready to go. I did put a little piece of foam tape on the back just to give it a little more cushion so that it won't rattle. Same on this side. So now we just need to route those wires over to the middle where I can get them inside. Because I already have the tow hitch wiring coming up through this center grommet, I'm going to poke these wires right up through the middle here. I think that will do me. I got both sides fed right here to the middle. And then we can reset that grommet. And then I can make all my connections inside. I'm going to have to extend those a little bit, but I can extend those left and right and tap into the wiring on either side, and I think that's going to be a lot more weatherproof and more secure than trying to do those connections outside where they're liable to get wet. To get to the back of the taillight wiring like I went through the same steps I did to get the hitch harness wiring in. You gotta pull the speaker panels off, pull the side panels loose in the back, and then you can get on the back side here. Looking at this, the taillight wiring itself comes right to that connector back there. So that's all the lead coming through the grommet. There's no other break in that. So I think I'm going to try and tap into that wiring right there on the outside of that connector. So if anything happens, we can just disconnect it there. Do the same thing on both sides. There's the same connector right there. I'm going to go with that, see what that looks like. I needed to extend these cables out a little bit. Since I'm an IT guy, I got patch cords by the bushel basket, so these were an easy way to extend those wires. They look like they're the same 24 gauge stranded wire. For a few bucks I bought some small splicers at Harbor Freight. Put those on here. I can wrap those up with some tape, and that'll make it easier to extend those out. Now I can just cut those off, run those up where I gotta go, and hook them together. Because I want to get those connections inside, it was easy enough to pull this light out, pop this grommet out. I disconnected the connector inside. Then I can pull this whole thing out. Then I got access to these wires. There's just 4 wires here. I'm basically doing the same thing. Everybody else is splicing outside, but I want to splice inside where it's better protected from the weather. I got a blue wire, a black wire with an orange stripe, and 2 black wires. I tried to look that up. I'm going to see if I can figure out the pin out which one goes to which. I just traced out the wires with a voltmeter. The one by itself here on the connector is black. That's the ground wire. This one with the orange stripe is the running lights. The blue one is the brake light. And the black with a blue stripe is the turn signal. So now I just need to splice into those and hook them up. Still not sure how I want to do this. I'd like to make it so that these are still, I can separate the taillight from the bumper lights if I need to. Let me see if I can tap into this. This is what I went with. I'm going to splice some pigtails into the harness so that I got a little bit of extra length. I just trimmed back the insulation on each one, wrapped it. I'm going to tape it off. I bought some fancy connectors. I'm thinking I can get away with these. You just stick the wire in it and it snaps closed on it. I think I can get away with that as a removable connector. Strip those off, put them in there, get 2 of these. That'll give me a disconnect point, so if I ever need to pull these apart for troubleshooting or mess around with it, get the light out by itself, I can do that. So let me continue with this. This is what I ended up with. Got those wires soldered, taped over the top. Now I got pigtails to work with. Easy enough now to take this whole assembly over to the car. I can feed my other wire out, make up the connections, and then I can push it back inside. Those orange connectors didn't work well at all, so what I ended up using was some Scotch locks, which are these things. That way I can just crimp those together. Those are gel-filled, waterproof. I just hook those together color for color. I can tie this all up in here. If I ever need to separate that, I can just clip that and not feel bad about it because I got extra length off of the regular harness and I don't have to mess with that anymore. So let me finish popping it all together and see how it works. Yay, look at that. In the grand scheme of things, I made this way more complicated than it needed to be. If you live in the way southwest where everything is dry and nice, you can probably get away with just a couple of those blue splicey connectors. Tap right into the taillights. Up here where everything's crappy and dirty and wet and salty, I wanted to get those connectors inside. I'm going to be way happier with that long term. If I ever need to maintain it or do something with the taillights, or if these things quit, I can just clip that off, redo it, and not have to mess with the regular wiring harness anymore. So now all I gotta do is put everything back together and go from there.